If you've dabbled in cocaine or obtained a grade 6 level education, you probably graduated from the D.A.R.E program. You know, the one with the lion mascot who sacrificed himself so that Narnia wouldn't get addicted to snow? When they gave us the information we needed on which people would have drugs and where to find them. Not at all a map for children. Come on, when the police came into the classroom and said every line you snort, they'll be watching you. Now you're picking up what I'm separating on a plate. The main premise of the D.A.R.E program was just to say no in order to live drug and violent-free lives. Because that works so well when it comes to sex, right? And it works so well when it comes to stopping a gang from stabbing you on a train. I'm actually disinclined to acquiesce to the request of puncture wounds. Probably should have asked me like a month ago. I was in a pretty dark place. But no, thanks. I'm good. Merry Christmas, though. And it works so well when it comes to telling Grandma that you don't want a fourth portion of dinner. No. They said not if, but when people offer us free drugs to just say no thanks. Gotta go to gym class. And I have 3 problems with this. The first problem being, a lot of people get into drugs after school. And I don't think that the predatory crack dealer to whom they've described is going to accept no thanks. Gotta go cry on the couch. My second problem with this being is nobody lurking around out there trying to give all their drugs away for free. That's not how consumerism works. Those police officers knew damn well the secret currency was having to touch a penis with your mouth, and kept that information to themselves. They did. Why else do you think it's called addiction? Welcome to the loop. Now, don't get me wrong, I give away a lot of drugs for free because I hate money and I like to think of myself as Robin from the Hood. But I give them to my friends who already do drugs. I'm not lurking around out there trying to get small tots to choose LSD over their 30 minutes of physical activity. And if that is actually an issue out there, then teachers need way more recognition and praise for all of the secret euthanizations of billionaires trying to form cracked out armies of children on their own dime. My third problem with D.A.R.E is making it all sound so fucking taboo. Smoking a joint and railing booger sugar should be 2 very different conversations. Don't make it into this big categorization. You need to educate on each drug, the long-term effects, and every ingredient inside each man-made chemical. But they also don't even consider the environmental factors of a child's life. Because if you say, if you do drugs, you're a fucking loser. Because then I go home and my dad's like, Samantha, you're a fucking loser. And I'm like, well shit, might as well shoot heroin now. If you're gonna double doggy dare me to madness with the silver spoon, what would Aslan say? Sublime was right. No one ever told us it's the wrong way. So as a woman of pure fact and science, I have selflessly dedicated years of drug abuse to conjure up real facts and ensure that your kids stay in school. Through my new innovative D.A.R.E program, Drug Abuse Real Experiences, I will educate you on which drugs can be helpful if done correctly, and which ones can be harmful and what will happen if indulged, all while not taking away your power of choice. Because curiosity did OD the cat, you know. The first drug I'll start with is ketamine, also known as horse tranquilizers. I'm not beginning here because I like to start with straight up anal, but because it's the first drug I ever did the night I got kicked out of the house. Completely unrelated, if you ask my life givers. The first thing that no one told me is you will be a dripping damsel. Ketamine drips feel like you're savoring a big glass of windshield wiper fluid that gets punctually topped off after every line. So consider that if you're gonna engulf yourself in the Arby's horsey sauce. Another situation to prepare yourself for is the guy you have a crush on liking the white witch who is currently calling herself the ketamine queen. So you get a little horsey and then snort yourself into a deep, deep, deep K-hole. I laid on a bathroom floor for what felt like hours, due to the cast of the Rocky Horror Picture Show above me saying, "Creature of the night." After some slithers to the left and some butt scoots to the right, I was able to cease their time warp and get lost in an unforeseen mirror. Every time I'd smile, the Cheshire Cat would take over my face, not to guide me to a mad tea party, but to show me the effects of having too much Special K for breakfast when you have an anxiety disorder. Once I finally fled the wonderlands of Transylvania, a new Everest presented itself. The staircase, which will take 5 hours Narnia time to scale, due to the Keta Queen convincing your limbs that you are an infant without the fearless ignorance to life's woes and heights. At the peak of your descent, you'll find a friend, who you will convince yourself is a figure of your imagination, and in the years you've known each other, you've been talking to yourself out loud, and the only one who's mad here is you, and it's not okay. I recently asked a friend of mine that still does ketamine what happens to him when he does it, and he said that he looked at his other friend, and that friend had 2 heads. You know what else has 2 heads and inflicts a deep-rooted fear into children? Monsters! Tell your kids that if they rail ketamine, 2-headed monsters are going to come out of their closets and attack them. Like, super not even a lie either, depending on the level of sketch that is your son's future drug dealer and friends, because you had a fucking loser kid. So let's not be selfish, people. There are anxious horses out there that need to relax. Don't do ketamine. Let's move on to the next food group, which is MDMA, which is kind of a hard topic to cover because you never know 100% what's in it. But the key to this is to not be so depressed with your life that you'll take whatever janky shit is handed to you. This is an imperative key because I found out the other day that I have, in fact, snorted meth once. I remember questioning the large gray crystals in front of me that were hard to crush, but I did not have that skeleton key or self-esteemic will to live. But what I am left with is a cloudy silver lining and justified information to tell you that if you snort meth, you will be left with a full body twitch every single time that you relax for the rest of your life. I also bought MDMA once and was handed a pressed purple pill that said Nintendo on it, and accidentally did ecstasy laced with 2CI at a forested acreage party. One terrifying trip and staring at a pack of cigarettes for 4 hours later, all the dealer had to say was, "Can you guys not tell anyone that I gave this to you?" Thus confirming the importance of trusting your resources and the product. If someone hands you an apple pie and the inside resembles black tar heroin, you're not going to put that in your nose. Don't do that with drugs. Now let's say you seek Molly, it's pure, trustedly resourced, and you aren't even suicidal at the time. Well, you're gonna be for the next 2 to 3 days. When you snort or parachute fake serotonin, it goes up to your real serotonin receptors with big dick energy talking shit like, "Wow, that's all the happy you got? Just try and produce and provide like we can. Do it, you can't do it, meandering bitch-ass scallywag." And then your receptors are like, "Hey, fuck you, man, talking shit, doubting my abilities like some regular peasant." The trash talk between dopamine really needs to get for a century. And then they penis pump their energy into hyperdrive and start producing faster than a freshly fertile woman from the medieval times, until they're so overworked they unionize and strike and give you shit all until you give them enough appreciation for them to get the fuck out of bed. So bullying your body into killing yourself sounds like your type of hoedown. Do MDMA in the hug drug we trust. Let's ride that train of happiness and track over to magic mushrooms, a fantabulous natural drug with a big misconception. People that have a bad trip on shrooms are idiots that are not doing them correctly or for the right reasons. Mindset is a very crucial factor. You have to be in it for the healing properties, not just the high. Don't get me wrong, visuals are bitchin'. I have had a forest of appreciation for the color green since trying shrooms. But if you are not prepared to take on and face your inner deep-rooted demons that you've sentenced to the back of the depths of your brain, you are going to see it as a bad trip. My friend did mushrooms because she was ready to see her anxiety face to face and get over it. I dropped shrooms because I wanted to confront my inner self-hatred and change the way of my thinking towards loving myself. And I ended up crying for hours because they showed me that there was no legitimate reason to have hated myself for all of these years. For the first time, I was able to disassociate my body from my soul and look at my traumas in the stance of people taking advantage of my body, but never being able to take my soul away from me. The psilocybin in shrooms increases the communication via neural pathways to different regions of your brain, all while using your existing serotonin receptors, which are also located in your gut, explaining why some people experience the feelings of gut rot. The come up can be very overwhelming. I did once have involuntary words come out of my mouth saying, "I'm gonna die." Except I realized that I didn't do this drug to fear it. I did it to ride whatever wave to whatever destination that it had in store for me. And that time happening to be the childhood that I thought was taken from me. They let me have the mindset and mannerisms of a child, but with the adult logic behind the curtain to know the difference between right and wrong and ensure that everything was going to be okay. When I looked down, I only saw knees down for height, and even my context was so weird. I butchered craft dinner, and I looked at it and said, "That's yucky." Context that I wouldn't usually use. I even watched the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie and saw it as Oscar-worthy acting, even though it's the worst one out of all the series. And I know that nothing I'm saying about shrooms has really anything to do with comedy, but this program really emphasizes that doing magic mushrooms does not make you a fucking loser. And they might even show you that you've never been a fucking loser. You just have to take whatever's presented to you positively. Because no two trips are ever going to be the same. You can't have these grand expectations. I naively wanted them to show me what to do with my future, and instead they got me over my fear of spiders. You never know what you need or what's hidden back here. But shrooms do. If done properly and for the right reasons, magic mushrooms are a magical healing drug. Cocaine, on the other hand, is not a good drug. The first time I tried it, my now ex-boyfriend found a baggie of it on a dive bar floor. And before we dive too deep into judgment for putting things in your body that were found on the ground, Alice from Wonderland did the same thing. This baggie just had different instructions of entry. This was a gift from Snow White herself. And my justification at the time being that classic Canadian 90s commercial didn't say shit about "don't you put it in your nose" and depression. So our Wall Street White Castle commenced at a friend's grandparents' house who were off on a religious cruise. Those bitches did not need Jesus. They should have left Jesus on their stone kitchen table so that Lucy and Mr. Tumnus didn't rail Turkish Delight off of Aslan's grave. What do you want me to say? I was gonna worship Christ, but then I got high. I was gonna say my penance when I realized I'm a blasphemous infidel, so I got high. I was gonna aim for holy redemption, so I didn't die, pay my respects to Peter and Susan, and then I thought, why? So I got high, and then even more high. Hallelujah, I was high. Da-da-da-da-da. Can I get an amen? My ex said the blow made him feel like a rock star, whereas it made me feel sober and angry. And whilst not on the blow-cane, I was already sober and angry. So I felt no need to be addicted to it as I was MDMA that made me feel happy until it wore off. So if the yayo does make you say yahoo and party like a rock star, it's gonna be a lifelong issue for you. And if you are not financially stable enough to upkeep your devil's dandruff decadence, That little secret wordplay on the word addiction we talked about will inevitably become your currency. So parents, when you're giving your kids the talk, and you explain that a woman has a vagina and a man has a penis, just slip it in there that if they want to do cocaine, they'll have to get used to choking down one of those bad boys on each day that ends in a Y to be financially able to do so. Because capitalism! LSD is both a trick and a treat for me to cover, because the original D.A.R.E program wants you to think that if you take LSD, you'll covalently bond into Lucy in the Sky with Bloods and Crips. But I had a wonderful experience on LSD. I don't know if my case is different though, because I am 24 going on 85, and my activity of choice was to knit a scarf. But what a thrill it was indeed. My fingers didn't have faces, but they were all individual people, swiftly and precisely doing their due diligence, and they niched that scarf out in an hour and a half. Fall on the floor and call me life alert. Grandma is in the building. Knit so hard, osteoporosis gonna find me. That shit crippling. But I'm not gonna not do hallucinogenics just because of the tripping hazard and I might have a bad hip. But on the same Werther's original, I have spoken to people who have had bad trips on LSD, and I've been told that if it's sour, spit it out immediately. That's an amino acid about to turn you real lipid, and you're gonna have to call up your antacid to bring you some Ugg boots to neutralize it with a basic. But hopefully she isn't already hippie flipped with LSD and Plan B to take her little own trip without the offspring. You're not gonna go far, kid, as long as she's not keeping those two separated. Just a pretty fly dead guy with no self-esteem. The lesser-known apathetic acid microdose. Let's direct our focus now to marijuana, green, ganja, the devil's coleslaw, Mr. Misunderstood. Many people like to see it as a gateway drug, but I think that if your father put down his rage juice and smoked a joint, he'd still be in your life. Let's together make a hypothetical pie chart. The worst thing that can happen from smoking too much marijuana: get anxious, eat a lot of pie, go to sleep. The worst thing that can happen from drinking too much alcohol: burn all your bridges, fuck a homeless man, shit on your ex-boyfriend's windshield, vomit on the waitress at Denny's, one animal ritual slaughter, pass out on the neighbor's lawn. You don't even need algebra to figure out that equation. The square root of alcohol is terrible life decisions. The square root of dope is dope. It's also a fucking godsend for people with ADHD. It makes my brain function at a non-hyperactive level. And if you ever run out of meds, marijuana, caffeine, grounder, upper, leveled, you're welcome. And yes, I know it is very possible to get addicted to marijuana, but that's when the mindset factor comes into play. Because if you're using it to numb your life and your feelings, then yes, obviously it's going to become a gatekeeper to the world of hard drugs and blow-induced blowies, because it can no longer alleviate your pain. I have been addicted to marijuana in the pain-numbing sense, but I'm able to pinpoint it because I won't get high. I'll just be sad and now unable to operate a vehicle to go eat my feelings at Taco Bell via Crunchwrap Supremes. So if you do notice that, it's time to take a tolerance break so that when you do get high, you'll be more stoned than a woman having a baby out of wedlock. And isn't that just the Canadian dream? And that, my friends, is the Drug Abuse Real Experiences program. I know that there are quite a few drugs and topics that I did not touch on today. That's because I'm a firm believer that if you do not know something, you should not be casting out your uneducated opinion on it. If there are drugs you would like me to talk about that I haven't tried, just give me money and I'll do them.